dialed in on third down tonight. There's a slant on first down. Catch made by Coleman. Keon Coleman, his first touchdown as a Seminole.
Flings one, caught by Coleman, his second catch. Down the sideline as he avoids a tackle. Hurdles a defender and taken down inside the 5.
Seam shot, Coleman. One-handed grab! Keon Coleman climbs the ladder!
I'm Alex Johnson. This is Yards Per Fantasy, and today we're talking Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman. We're going to dive into his background and college career, discuss the positives and negatives in his prospect profile, try to determine his dynasty value, and if and where you should target him in your rookie drafts. Keon Coleman, he's a wide receiver from Florida State. He's a junior. He's just 20 years old, and he's listed at 6'4", 215 pounds. Keon Coleman went to high school in Louisiana where he played both basketball and football. And as a four-star recruit, he received offers from more than 40 schools, including Auburn, Baylor, Georgia, Miami, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and others. He committed to play both basketball and football at Michigan State as part of the 2021 recruiting class. And as a freshman, he played in 10 games, catching 7 passes for 60 yards and just 1 touchdown. And after the season, he did indeed play some basketball, appearing in 6 games. But fast forward back to the football season in 2022, Keon Coleman played opposite Jaden Reed as the wide receiver 2 in the Michigan State offense. And in 12 games, he caught 58 passes for 798 yards and 7 touchdowns. He was named third team all-conference, and then after the season, Keon Coleman opted to enter the transfer portal, where he ranked as the number 4 available wide receiver in the nation. And at that point, he chose to go to Florida State, where he led the team with 50 receptions for 658 yards and 11 touchdowns in 2023. And adding on what he did as a kick returner, it was enough to earn first team All-ACC as a wide receiver, all-purpose, and specialist. But let's talk about the positives, the things that we like in Keon Coleman's profile. The first is his size. 6'4", 215 pounds. They don't make wide receivers like this anymore, especially not in recent years. Remember last year's class? Bunch of undersized guys. Keon Coleman is one of the bigger wide receivers in the 2024 class. And as a result, he plays physical. He's also got great ball skills. He's excellent in contested catch situations. He's got a wide catch radius. He's got a good release. He's got a little issue beating press coverage. Can't say that about a lot of the wide receivers in this class. He also has impressive lateral movement for his size. He's great after the catch. And he had 25 punt returns in 2023. And if you watch any of my videos, you know that I love guys who get involved on special teams. It's an indicator of athleticism and playmaking ability, and tells me the coaches are identifying this as well, and they want to get the ball in this wide receiver's hands in more ways than just standard passes. And then Keon Coleman accounted for 44% of the receiving touchdowns in the Florida State offense in 2023. This is an elite number. He had a 31% dominator rating. Dominator rating measures how much of the passing offense a wide receiver accounted for. I consider 30% to be the baseline of good, so Keon Coleman just meets that threshold. He had an age 19 breakout. Breakout age has some strong correlation to NFL and fantasy football production. And it makes sense. If you're succeeding at a young age, especially when competing against guys who are a couple years older in a lot of cases, it indicates that you are good at what you do. And then I like that he's an early declare. Early declare is another one of these things that has pretty good correlation to future fantasy football production. We're playing a probabilities game, and this is another check mark in Coleman's favor. On the negative side, Keon Coleman lacks top end speed. Some of his routes need some refining, and his college production is underwhelming. And if we look at 2023, he accounted for just 18% of the team's receiving yards. He also relies a little bit too much on contested catches and spectacular catches. In fact, 34% of his targets in 2023 were considered contested, and that's according to PFF. He also averages 1.9 yards per route run for his entire college career, also per PFF. And finally, he had a 1.51 yards per team pass attempt. I look at yards per team pass attempt because it helps factor out the passing game volume of an offense. Because just looking at a guy's counting stats is not enough when we have some teams throwing nearly 600 times in a season and others barely cracking 400. I'm looking for something around 3 yards per team pass attempt. Even the 2 8s, 2 9s would be really strong. Coleman only got about half of that. But before we get to my NFL comp and my draft projection for Keon Coleman, I just want to make sure that you are aware that you do not have to wait until your rookie drafts to get your hands on some Keon Coleman shares. Underdog Fantasy makes it possible to draft these rookies right now. Go draft some Keon Coleman, go draft some Marvin Harrison Jr. or Brock Bowers. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, make sure you use promo code YARDSPER and they're going to double your first deposit. And look for me in the draft room. You're probably going to find me. I'm drafting a ton of 2024 teams already. The archetype for Keon Coleman, he's a possession wide receiver. I also flirted with calling him a red zone threat because he doesn't fully embody the possession wide receiver description. He's kind of an in-between guy. My NFL comp for him is to be determined. I'm having a hard time with this one, guys. It's certainly not DK Metcalf, which I've seen thrown around a lot. But let me know in the comments, who do you think is a good comp for Keon Coleman? I need help on this one. And while you're there, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And my draft projection for Keon Coleman is the first round. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of him, I do think at least one of these NFL teams is going to fall in love with his traits, and they're going to give him a shot in the first round. The bottom line is, Keon Coleman is a physically gifted wide receiver. Standing at 6'4", 215 pounds, he has the body of a prototypical X wide receiver in the NFL. He has good hands with incredible ball skills and impressive lateral movement for a guy of his size. He thrives in contested catch situations, and he presents his quarterback with a target that can win those 50-50 balls like he's not even covered. Coleman also puts his size and physicality to good use at the line of scrimmage, easily shaking press coverage more often than not. And while he can run the full route tree and win on all 3 levels, Keon Coleman does have room to grow in the route department. Some wasted movement and unharnessed footwork paired with the lack of true deep speed can sometimes make creating separation difficult for Keon Coleman. But his raw physical tools and already signs of improvement from his sophomore to his junior seasons does provide a little bit of hope that he can continue to develop in this area. The scouts are drooling over Keon Coleman's athleticism, size, and overall physical traits of the wide receiver position. But the production numbers don't seem to match the scouting reports. If all you do is read the film grades and watch the highlight clips, you're going to love Keon Coleman. But the numbers tell a different story. And if you know me, my analysis is very, very numbers focused. Keon Coleman was an underwhelming producer in both of his seasons as a starter, one at Michigan State and one at Florida State. He combined for just barely over 1,500 receiving yards in his 3 college seasons. And to put that into perspective, LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers had 1,569 receiving yards in 2023 alone. And sure, you could place blame on subpar quarterback play and an offense that isn't built around the passing game, etc., etc., etc. And that may explain the lack of raw numbers, but it still doesn't answer to why he only accounted for just 18% of his team receiving yards in 2023, or had just 1.51 yards per team pass attempt, or 1.9 yards per route run for his entire career. This is a problem. And some analysts are obsessing over his incredible contested catch ability. And while I agree he is phenomenal in those situations and his spectacular catches are so much fun to watch, it does beg the question, why is he in so many contested catch situations? Can he not create separation? Because if you're struggling to create separation at the college level, it's certainly not going to get any easier in the NFL. And take this quote from Sam Munson on PFF. He says, "If making contested catches is part of your skill set, that's great. But if it's the best thing that you bring to the table, we might have a problem." And I think we have a problem. That's because according to PFF, 34% of Keon Coleman's targets in 2023 were considered contested. And in comparison to some of the other top prospects in this class, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a 26.3% contested target rate. Rome Odunze, 20.6%, and Malik Nabers, 17.2%. Coleman is certainly a polarizing prospect. The upside is absolutely there. Like I said before, he is great at the catch point, and he gets a lot out of his natural athletic ability. And we do have to remember he is just 20 years old with time to develop his game further. And truthfully, his ceiling is about as high as it gets if he puts it all together. There's no doubting that. But the concerns are very, very fair. Like I said, the scouting reports are going to make you think that this guy is the next star wide receiver in the NFL. But in reality, you cannot make a facts and numbers-based case that makes this guy look like a great prospect. But still, the draft capital is likely going to be there, with some NFL team falling in love with the upside and the raw talent. And in Dynasty, I would love to take a shot on a guy like this in the late second round of our rookie drafts. However, I expect his rookie draft ADP is going to wind up somewhere between picks 10 and 14, which is going to make him a fade in my book.